sometimes it was really, really difficult because I see blues as being Black music, but blues has kind of like been just taken over by white folks, not just white players, but also white audiences and white venues. And so that was difficult. I remember one time in Maine, I forget where we were, somewhere Caribou, up northern Maine, and we walked in a restaurant to eat, and everything got hushed, and all these little children were like, mama, mama, look, look, there's somebody Black.
Welcome to the Zami Nobla National Organization of Black Lesbians on Aging podcast. We are your sound source for Black lesbian herstory. I'm your host, Angela Denise Davis. Are you feeling a little blue today? Like Ma Rainey, Bessie Smith, Alberta Hunter blue? Well, if so, we've got you covered. Today we speak with blues musician, griot activist, Gaye Adegbalola. She talks about her life growing up in Fredericksburg, Virginia, her time spent at Boston University, life in New York, and coming back home to be all that she can be. And what an incredible story she tells us. I know you're going to like this one.
My name is Gaye Todd Adegbalola. I will be 78 in March, and proud of it. I've done a lot of living. I would start by saying that I'm a child of God, and I try to make God happy with everything I do. I am a mother, and that's my proudest work. My son is legally blind. It was a challenge, but we made it through, and we're still working on things. I've been a daughter, and I've been a good daughter. And my mom passed 6 weeks shy of 102. That's about it. I think that's about all you need to know who I am. I'm a good friend. I have a wonderful, wonderful partner. People say, why aren't you married? Well, we aren't married because it hasn't been convenient paper-wise yet. Mm-hmm. We have a celebration every day we wake up. It's a celebration to know love, to know comfort, to know safety, to know peace. And I'm grateful for that. And I'm a musician. And I'm thrilled every year when it's tax time and you sign your name at the bottom and they ask occupation. And I write musician because it hasn't been easy, but I've made a living doing what I love. And I know that I am a griot and have been for many, many years. So that's a big mouthful I just gave you. Feel free to edit it.
It's a wonderful mouthful. I think I shared this story with you before, but I first came into contact with you when I was in divinity school at Vanderbilt University. And I was working in the bookstore. We had some CDs that came through some demos, and so we would play them. And the bookstore manager at that time handed me the CD, and it was yours, Big Ovaries Baby. And I said, who is this beautiful Black woman on the cover of this CD? That's the kind of the first thing that strikes you. It's a beautiful cover. And I listened to the music and I said, whoa, this is something that seems very familiar and kin to me, even though I had only listened to your CD that first time. And music has a way, I think, of connecting us when we have those kind of spiritual vibes and we put good music out. It reaches out and I think it grabs you. And so I love telling that story about you.
I'm a little bit surprised because I thought I had been introduced to you through Saffire, but that wasn't the case. That was a solo. That was my first solo
yes.
effort. I was just thinking the other day that I need to re-record Big Ovaries because that was 1999.
Oh, definitely. Let's talk about how you and where you grew up. Let's begin there.
Born, raised, and still live in Fredericksburg, Virginia. Fredericksburg is it used to be, before the traffic got so bad, an hour south of DC and an hour north of Richmond. We were right on Route 1 and we're right on I-95 now. Fredericksburg was a very small town when I was growing up, less than 30,000 people. And even today, it's less than, when I grew up, it was less than 20,000. And presently, it's less than 30,000. Fredericksburg is steeped in history. It was George Washington's boyhood home, his mama's home, his sister's home. The ammunition for the Revolutionary War was made here. The Civil War Battle of Fredericksburg was fought here. And so that's what the little town is known for. But I grew up here. And of course, when I grew up, it was totally segregated. I like to say that it was apartheid. That's what I was raised in. So all my formative years, I was told I was a lesser person by the powers that be. However, I had a wonderful mom and dad. My dad was the most creative person I've ever met in my life. And he had a little jazz combo. And you must forgive me, I have to drink a lot of water. I took my medication today. I told you I was 78. So old people get dry mouth if they're on medication. And also, if you're old, you got to hydrate, baby.
That's right.
Hydrate all the time. Every time you see me, I got a bottle of water with me. So anyways, and my mom was really creative in a different way. My mom was a real organizer. And she was the one that did battle in a very quiet way. She fought the fight to get a playground sponsored by the city in a local park that she ran so that Black children would have something to do. And then she fought to get a youth canteen so that teenagers would have something to do. My dad was the first Black on the school board. My mom saw to it, waged the campaign that got the first Black mayor elected. So both of them are now on Fredericksburg's Wall of Honor. And I was sent off to school up north. I was sent to school in Boston, and I was supposed to come back as a doctor, but oh Lord, I like to party. Yes, I did. Every time there was a dance, I was there from the first note till the last one. I love to dance. My high school years were some of the happiest days of my life, and every time a new dance came out, I was all over it. So, but anyway, while I was there, I did start learning guitar, and I could have gone on to med school. I had decent scores and all of that, but that was not my passion.
What school did you attend in Boston?
Boston University. I was a biology chemistry major.
Okay.
Hallelujah, bless me. I was in the deep end of the pool, but it worked out good. You know, what I had a lesson in by going to school in Boston, I learned a lot of cultural things that I did not know. My freshman year, I roomed with a Goldfarb and Del Vecchio. My sophomore year, I roomed with a Goldsmith. My junior year, I was with a Goldberg. My senior year, I was by myself. Yeah. But anyway, so I was indoctrinated into a Jewish culture, and I learned about from Del Vecchio. I didn't even know there was such a thing as an Italian culture. I had my first Chinese food, if you will, my first Russian food, if you will, the first time I'd been to a symphony, if you will. And so I learned so much in terms of the world. I don't know if I said so or not, but I think I skimmed over this, but my high school, I had the best teachers I've ever had in my life. And
was it a segregated high school?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes. I didn't really talk to anybody quite my age until I went to college, which was unique, to say the least. But in high school, I think all of them taught you kind of one thing, and that was that you cheer the loudest when you're losing. And oh, they were so smart and so loving and so caring for every single student. And I've been blessed by that. In high school, I did make all-state band 3 years. first chair flute, played piccolo too.
And we were also talking about just those early influences of music, and you mentioned your dad having a jazz combo. Was that your
Right.
main influence for
No,
coming
not
into
at
music?
all. No. My dad, there was always music in my house.
Mm.
He liked big bands. He loved Duke Ellington. He loved Count Basie, and he also liked organ combos like Jimmy Smith,
Oh yeah.
Jimmy McGriff, Wild Bill Davis, Groove Holmes, Shirley Scott, and every summer. And this is really 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 important. But every summer, my folks would save up so that we could go to two concerts in DC. DC had a amphitheater, Carter Barron Amphitheater, and my dad always wanted to go see Ella Fitzgerald, and usually Oscar Peterson was on piano behind her.
Oh.
And so I probably saw Ella maybe 5 or 6 times. And this was around the age of 9, 10, 11, 12, something like that.
Mm.
She is by far the best vocalist I've ever heard. I mean, there is no one greater.
Mm-hmm.
And then my mom, oh, she liked Pretty Boy, Harry Belafonte.
Mm.
So we would always go to see Harry Belafonte, and he always had an opening act, different people. Miriam Makeba one year, and another year he had Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee. And when I heard that music, that's when I fell in love with blues.
Mm.
That's the music that I knew was mine. And I think a lot of blues people have fallen in love that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's something about it. When I heard him, I just, and I had the honor of meeting Brownie McGee later on in life. But, and then my mom, I told you, she started and she worked at the youth canteen. So there was a jukebox. And every time they changed the jukebox, she'd bring the records home. So I grew up listening to I'm getting ready to say, let me see, the song was The Great Pretender. But anyway, the Drifters and folks like that, Clyde McPhatter. And I grew up dancing to Etta James and Ruth Brown and James Brown and Jackie Wilson and all of that good stuff. So yeah, music was very much a part of my life, as well as playing flute,
Mm-hmm.
playing piccolo, and I would practice an hour or two every day.
Do you still play the flute?
No, I don't have one. Damn it, I lent it to this guy in New York, and I think he pawned the thing, but I never got it back.
Oh
And
no.
then I bought another piece of one, and it was just too difficult to play. And so I was thinking, because a lot of blues, the North Mississippi Hill Country blues, there's a lot of fife and drum.
Mm.
And if I had that piccolo now, I would tear it up,
Mm.
because I would have a whole different feeling and a whole different sound in my head other than Stars and Stripes Forever. But yeah, yeah.
What
Now,
you?
a band teacher, and I have to tell you this
Mm-hmm.
because this is quite exciting. Uh, our band teacher was this young woman who just graduated from Virginia State College, and she was about big as a minute, as we say down here. And she was like the first woman band director in the area, and she was just so demanding in a good way. She wouldn't let us do all the fancy steps and the marches and stuff until we learned the righteous stuff, like
Mm-hmm.
Stars and Stripes Forever. We had to play that. We had to play it by heart with no music. That's what by heart means, doesn't it? Yeah. And so um, just an example of the discipline was that we wore white shoes and we had to put black soul dressing on them. And we had to bring in the shoes the day before the event because she wanted to make sure the white wasn't on the black and the black wasn't on the white.
Mm.
Perfection. And so this kind of discipline, I don't think you can have any kind of greatness in any field without discipline.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think you can have just really supreme greatness without focusing on one thing. You know, you look at Nina Simone and you just say, oh my God, she is the griot, she is the storyteller, but she's also the pianist and the complete musician and the songwriter and the singer, the vocalist, total package, because she did one thing in life. You know, I could never be that. I'm too much of a civic person for one thing, activist for one thing. Yeah.
You speak of, your early influences of music and your playing flute and piccolo in the band and your love for blues, but not getting to the guitar, which you play today and you're known for until you got to college.
Mm-hmm.
How did that happen? And tell me about your first guitar. I believe there's a story there.
Okay. Oh yeah, there's a story. There's a story. As a matter of fact, I have my first guitar beside my bed, and its name is Baby. When I was in college, my junior year, and this was in around 1960, and this was when folk music was first coming on the scene. You remember you had Bob Dylan and Joan Baez and that sort of folk element joining in the civil rights movement. Well, you also had a big folk community in Boston, and Reverend Gaye Davis and Mississippi John Hurt and people like that would come through Boston and come through Cambridge. And so my roommate, my junior year, heard, I believe it was Reverend Gaye Davis, and she went out. She had the wherewithal, and she went out and bought a Martin 0018 because she was going to play like that. And of course, it was under her bed. And I started pulling it out. And if you learn 3 chords and got a capo, you could probably play 95% of the songs in the world, you know? So I learned those chords and got some calluses on my fingers, and I was off and running. And the next thing I knew, I was playing along with Joan Baez and along with Dave Van Ronk. And so a little later on, I begged her and I bought her a guitar. She sold it to me for $150. And it was on time payments, payments over time. Yeah. Yeah. But I still have Baby. And I named it Baby because there was a big chunk of time in my life when my son was little and I had nowhere to go and I had no one to hold except my guitar. I would hold my guitar at night and play it.
What type of guitar is it for those who know something about guitars?
It's that Martin 0018. It's a small little guitar, but Martin is a well-recognized name in acoustic guitars, and a lot of bluegrass players have Martins. I didn't know one guitar from another, and I still don't to a great degree. Because I basically beat my guitars. Most guitar players will have at least a dozen guitars, maybe 24 guitars. Most professional guitar players will minimally have a dozen guitars. I have 4. I sold one last year. The pandemic has really been rough on professional musicians because we can't call ourselves a business, and we haven't gotten any kind of financial support from the government per se. So anyway, I sold one. I sold Millie. Yeah.
I have a number of ukuleles, and so I feel guilty sometimes with all the ones I have. So
No,
it's
you
good to
probably
have.
know each one. You know each one. You know what each one sounds like. You
Yes.
know what each one feels like,
Yes.
and you know the sound that you want on the song that you play. So I understand all of that, but my guitar is mainly the role is so much the role of an accompanist that I don't focus too much on. If my fingers can hit the frets, I'm good.
Let's talk about where you started your life after Boston University with guitar in hand, and what was next after that?
After BU, I moved to DC. It was like my my big sister. I pledged Delta Sigma Theta, and oh my God, Delta saved me because I was in a white world, and all of my social life had really been cut out until um, I hooked up with the Deltas because you had just a handful of Blacks in each college. So the sororities and the fraternities were citywide. Um, we had people on our lines from MIT, from Tufts, from Brandeis, and we only got together once a week. So it was a long pledge period. But anyway, my big sister was moving to DC, and I moved down there with her. And I worked for TRW Systems as a technical writer. And I took some guitar lessons from a couple of itinerant people, and I would play guitar in DuPont Circle on Sunday afternoons and draw a little crowd, but I didn't have any kind of musician thing on my mind. I was only there for about a year, and by that time I was ready for the big city, and I moved to New York with a woman who was on my line, and she was taking classes at Martha Graham, and eventually she became the school director for Alvin Ailey. I had some beautifully talented women on the line. So anyway, I moved to New York, and that's where my eyes were open. Well, actually, I was in Washington at the time. I went up to Boston, and for the first time, all of us were regrouping in Boston. And for the very first time, we sat there and talked about Black-white stuff. And that was so strange because at the time, I think all of us were great Black hopes for our communities.
And these were your Black cohorts from
Our
Boston.
Black cohorts, we were all like leaders in our respective communities. And we were supposed to come to this white Mecca and become totally, I won't say assimilated, but return home with all the skills needed to lift our people, so to speak. One time when I was up there and we talked about all these things, we were all at Revere Beach. We went to the beach that day, and we noticed once we got there, the people started moving further and further away from us, white folks. Next thing we knew, we were on this beach by ourselves. It was like, oh, all right, we got it. So on my way home from that particular trip, somebody gave me the autobiography of Malcolm X. And I read it on the bus going home, and my life has not been the same.
Wow.
If you talk about what books have been influential in your life, that one did it for me because it opened my eyes to my own beauty and to the beauty of my people. At that time we were still straightening our hair. As my mama said, Gaye, don't wear those loud colors, so you didn't wear bright yellow and orange and red. You were into charcoal gray and olive green. You played down your skin tone. You didn't want to be seen as ashy. Well, you still don't want to be ashy, but there's no shame to it now. See, there was a shame before. If you were in the rain and your hair got nappy, there was a shame. There's no shame now. So times are much better in that regard. But anyway, I learned how to love myself is what happened.
So many people don't really appreciate that history of our bodies and how we were told it was a mandate for the hair to be straightened, a mandate to do things with
there was a shame if you didn't.
Yes.
I see you have a HBCU shirt on.
Yes.
And a friend of mine the other day, she swaggered up to me with her shirt. She said, I went to and I said, yeah, well, I didn't. But it's not because I didn't want to. I had a full scholarship. And my parents scuffled to send me to Boston. But it was a different kind of role I was supposed to play. And it was a very hard role. If I'd have gone to Virginia State, I would have been a top dog. I would have been, you know, running things and what have you. My leadership would have been accepted there. But I learned some other things by going to Boston, starting with the guitar, for example. I doubt if that would have happened at State, but who knows? Who knows? But anyway, while I was in New York, that's when I really got steeped in my Blackness. I started out by working at Rockefeller University in biochem research. And then I ended up at Harlem Hospital as a bacteriologist. And then I lived not too far from Harlem Hospital. And every Saturday I would work at the Liberation Bookstore, which was at 131st and Lenox, where all the books about the struggle came in. And that wasn't just about Blacks in America, but that's where I first read Frantz Fanon. That was when I first, I was in a study group. We met every Wednesday night, and once a week we read Booker T. Washington. We read Marcus Garvey. We read Mao Zedong. We read the actual books. We read Du Bois inside and out. And, all that stuff that you're not taught in high school, at least we weren't taught. We were taught about George Washington Carver and to a degree about Booker T. Washington, but not the contributions that man made. We almost laughed him off as an Uncle Tom, but he saved the South. He and George Washington Carver saved the South. And so, we need to look at our people from all kinds of perspectives. And my worldview and my appreciation of myself and my history and, Mali and Ghana and Shanghai, you start to learn about all that goodness, and you have a different life. Yeah, you have a different life. So that happened. And then my ex-husband used to manage a group called the Last Poets. And the Last Poets were perhaps the first rap group. They were there before Donnell Lee. They were the ones that were on the subway, and they were the ones talking about revolution, and they were the ones performing to conga drums. And I was with a group called the Harlem Committee for Self-Defense. If you should happen to go on my website, and go to the bio page. And at the very end, there's an extended bio with pictures. Then you can see me doing some of my activism. Yeah, some photos of me.
We'll include a link to that in the show notes.
Yeah, it was real. But then I came back home. To Fredericksburg, Virginia. My ex-husband, he was arrested and in prison at the time. And a couple of my friends had died mysteriously. One was found in a Connecticut River, and another one whose wife was in our study group. He was active in SNCC and went to his car one morning and turned the ignition on and the car blew up. I was there on the third floor walk up with my baby by myself at 131st Street with some heroin addicts shooting up across the street. It was time to go. And I made that decision on a Wednesday, and I was out of there on Friday.
Did you meet your husband in New York? Is that when you got married when you were in New York? Okay.
Yes, it was. Back to the hair though. I stopped straightening my hair. I got my afro in 68, in February of 68. I think it was February. But anyway, that fall I came home, and at the time I had like a shoulder to shoulder bush, one of these big round bushes. And I walked into the high school football game, and a hush just fell over the stadium. Boom. And you could see everybody watch me as I walked past, like that. And that was the start for my hometown, When I came back here, I kind of floundered around for a year with my son. Mm-hmm. And the first job I got was taking the school census, going door to door and finding out how many kids were in a household, that kind of thing. But anyway, that led to me getting employment. And I became a science teacher, an 8th grade science teacher, without having a single education class. So it was a little bit difficult. It was a little bit difficult. In the 8th grade, these young people, they don't know if they're boys and girls or men and women. It's a hormonal time, Jack. Mm-hmm. So it was real hard learning how to make your lesson fit the slot or making it flow over into the next day. It was hard. It was really, really hard, but I made it.
How many years did you teach?
I taught for 18 years.
Wow.
And I'm proud to say I was Virginia State Teacher of the Year in 1982, mainly for 8th grade science. But they put me in charge of designing the Gifted and Talented program. That was interesting. I think the greatest thing I did as a teacher, I designed a program for children gifted in leadership. And that was exciting because it wasn't about can you read and write or can you do math? No, it's about can you pull people together? So, I taught them that there were 2 kinds of leaders. There were people leaders and then there were organizational people. It's kind of like my mom and dad. And usually the people leaders need to know how to be more organized and the organizational leaders need to know how to be more people-wise. So it was just absolutely delightful. So you had some of the little white cheerleader types and you had some boys that were from difficult circumstances and all of them were in one room together and they learned how to love each other. Yeah.
Well, you seem to have done well during those 18 years of teaching and learning how to be a teacher. Yeah.
I didn't leave it because I didn't like it. Actually, I went on and in order to get qualified to teach, I did have to go back and take education classes. And I went on and got my master's. And I got my master's in educational media, but I specialized in photography. So there was a time in my life that whenever you saw me, I had on 1 or 2 or 3 cameras at a time. And all of that to say that my last 5 years of teaching, they had moved the 8th grade to the high school. And then they put me, because I had the skill, they put me in charge of the yearbook. If that's not a thankless job, I don't know what is. Anybody doing the yearbook, their whole salary should be doubled. Everybody hates you if you spell somebody's name wrong or if you don't have a picture of the golf team or whatever. So after 5 years, I was exhausted and I left. I got a leave of absence for a year and went into music. And then Saffire just took off.
Let's jump back a bit because I'm curious to know with your life in Boston, D.C., and New York, at what point did you come to understand who you were as a Black lesbian?
Oh, goodness. There's always that first love and there's always that first heartbreak. And during the time when I first experienced it, I had my first kiss with a woman when I was 6 months pregnant. And it was then that I fully understood that I could not live this lie with my husband, who was a good dude. I could not live this lie any longer. But also moving back to Virginia, to conservative Virginia, with a sickly son and teaching school, is no way I could be out. It's no way that I could be out. So I went on the road. Saffire started in 84. I'd been playing in little clubs to supplement my income. He don't make much more these days than what you made when I started. When I started on my own, I guess it was around 1980 or so, 79, 80. And Saffire was formed in 84. In 87, 88, 88, we went on the road.
And for those who don't
Um,
know, Saffire is the Uppity Women's Blues Band.
Uppity Blues Women.
Uppity Blues
Sapphire,
Women.
the Uppity Blues Women.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
yes. And that was a trio?
It was a trio. And it's interesting, we didn't set out to be a trio of women, but that's what happened. Ann was playing blues all over town, Ann Rabson with her guitar. And I had taken some lessons from her. I'd taken lessons from lots of different people. Every time I found somebody who could play a song that I liked, I'd kind of like grab them and say, hey, can you teach me that song? So I was called to do a gig here in Fredericksburg, and the room was much bigger than me and my little guitar. You know, I needed more sound to fill the room. So I found out that Ann was back in town, and I asked her to join me. So we started out as a duo. And we started packing this room. It was we were playing on Sunday nights, and the room was jammed. And then they added Monday night and Sunday night and Monday night, the room was packed. So it was a hotel. So the hotel, you know how they can open petitions to expand the size of the room? It was like 3 rooms on off nights, and we were packing the place. So and Earlene, who became the bass player, she was playing with a bluegrass band, and she just happened to sit in one day. And for anybody who's playing music, you get more money as a band than you do as a solo or a duo. I mean, even though you solo, you would think, well, 1/3, but you get paid better if you're 3 or more. No, not exactly either. That formula doesn't work out. But anyway, so at that point, I was kind of like able to be freer than I had been. But I also knew that if Saffire failed, I would need to come back and teach. So I was not open. And I still could not be that. So even though my son graduated in 87, and I went full-time in 88 from high school, so that there was a little more freedom. And then somewhere along the way, Ann Rabson, our piano player, gave me a button, you know, like you wear on your lapel. I think I still have it, as a matter of fact. And it says, "Closets are for clothes." And she just gave it to me and giggled. And she said, "You gonna wear that, Gaye?" And it was like, well, yeah, I guess I am for a while anyway. So eventually I started tiptoeing out. I tell people now when I talk with them, I said, at first I was very much in the closet. And then as I went on the road some, and I started dating in this little community of lesbians here in Fredericksburg, I said I came out of the closet, but I was still in the room. And then you know, there's some little pride things going on, and I was out of the room and I was into the house. I said, and nowadays, hey, I am out of the house and I'm running up and down the street naked, you know. Hey, here I am. just this morning, I met somebody and she said, "Oh, so you're gay?" And I went, "Yes, in more ways than one." There was a little old white lady that worked at the historic building, and she looked at me like, "Ah, yeah, well, that's true. That's who I am." And I'm so sad that it took me this long, but you know, to everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. Young people today, I guess some of the transgender folks are having the fight that I had back then. And I can't say that I understand all of that, just like people didn't understand me. But I'm not hardly going to call a name. You know, I'm not hardly going to downplay anybody's what they feel about their own bodies.
I want to go back to that first kiss because I have a question to ask about it. You know, I'm nosy,
Yes.
curious. So with the first kiss, was that also the first knowing that this may be a part of who you were, or was
Oh
it just a
no. Oh no.
okay?
Oh no. I think I knew I was a lesbian before I knew I was Black.
Mm,
Hmm.
tell me about that.
I knew when I was a kid. I mean, I was a baby. I was a baby. And I would not go to sleep at night until the girl next door came over and tucked me in.
Mm,
Oh, and she was a beautiful, beautiful, well, woman now. But and I don't have the same feeling at all. But when I was a baby, all I wanted to do was be around this woman. I mean, she looked like a caramel colored Liz Taylor,
mm,
and she was soft spoken and just just cute and delicate and shapely and everything.
mm,
And yeah, so I knew that it was a special feeling.
mm-hmm,
I didn't know what it was, but it was a special feeling.
mm-hmm.
And yeah, so that was there. And then I was the tomboy.
Well, thank you for illuminating us on that moment because I was
Oh, come on
curious.
now. When did you know? How soon did you know?
Oh,
When you were in divinity school? Must have
we
been
talk about
before
you,
that.
Gay. We talk
It had
about
to
you,
be
Gay.
that. It had to
N-
be before then. No,
No,
I know it was before that.
you know, and it's so funny because I was thinking about this just the other day. I remember being at Clark, Atlanta University, and I was standing in what we typically call the student union, but it really wasn't the student union. It was just a room above the cafeteria. And I was looking out onto the yard, and I was just about to tell this guy that I really liked that I think I might be a lesbian. But something in me told me, let's not say that. And from that point on, I buried it until I was 31. And then
And now
after
you're
that point, I
35.
came out. And then at 51 now, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm all the way out there. I mean, it's just, I think when you know who you are, you
Mhm.
become this authentic landmark that other people can point to and you can point to yourself. So it's very powerful
Yeah.
knowing
It's
that.
like what can somebody do to me? What can anybody possibly do to me?
Yes.
I don't have any real money. I mean, I live in a house. I got a 2006 car. They could take that, but what can somebody do to me? And other than chop off my clit,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
at 78, hey,
Mm-hmm. Well,
you
some
know,
things you want to keep, even at 7, 8.
yeah,
Gay, I
right. Well, you
imagine.
do, but
Yeah.
still, I'm ready to stand up for
Mm-hmm.
anything I believe in now.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
Well, let's go back to Saffire because you were with Saffire for a number of years and then you took it on the road independently. What was that transition like?
Oh, okay, all right.
And
And
maybe
I
actually,
happened, I didn't put on the sapphire shirt for this interview. I just happened to have it on today,
oh,
and I got in too late from running errands to change clothes. I was just zooming around this way, and the storm is here. It's a wicked storm here in
oh,
Fredericksburg today. Yeah. Uh, well, Sapphire, we were together for 25 years. We had one change of personnel. Our bass player, who wasn't really a blues lover,
mm-hmm.
she left in 92, and another woman from Indianapolis, Angela Faye, took her place. But Sapphire, we were together from 84 to 2009. And I'm the culprit who ended it. I ended it because my mom was now in a nursing home, and when I cut back working, I was down to like 2 long weekends a month, and our record label was like, we can't sell records if you're not really going to work. So we decided that we would have a go out with a bang, and we had a year of full touring in 2009, and I came home to take care of my mom.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and those were the best 6 years I had. I would, feed her most days and tuck her in, and we had some wonderful, wonderful time together. I'm an only child,
Okay.
She was an only child. I'm an only child. My son is an only child. Today, my son and I, that's my family.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, Queen has a huge family. So I've inherited a grandchild and I've inherited another son. I've inherited family. Anyway, I had been doing some solo stuff before Saffire ended. I was in 2004. The filmmaker Martin Scorsese did a series called The Blues,
Mm-hmm.
and he had 2 hours a night for a week on The Blues. So that was 14 hours, and he didn't have 14 minutes about women. And I was truly pissed off. So I started doing workshops. As a matter of fact, y'all would probably love the workshop that I do. I have all these video clips of blues women,
Oh, wow.
video clips of Sippy Wallace, and video clips of Alberta Hunter, and excuse me, I'm sorry, video clips of Victoria Spivey and what have you. And so I would go around showing and playing music from this era. So some songs I didn't have video of, and I asked Roddy Barnes to play piano for me to record them. The next thing we knew, it sounded pretty good. So I made another solo CD, which is called Neoclassic Blues, and it's historical about the classic blues women. So I did that in 2004, and then in 2006, my son had reprogrammed some of my original music and synthesized it. And we did something called Blue Mama Black Sun. He was into his goth thing at the time. So that was 2008. And then in 2006. And then in 2008, I did a full-blown blues CD called Gay Without Shame. And that was, I trust you have that. If you
Yes,
don't,
I
I'll
do.
just send it to
Yes,
you.
I
Okay.
do.
But you see, all of this was still while Saffire was happening. And so I was doing things on my own at that time. Anne passed in 2013. And since that time, I've done a lot more stuff.
I'm curious because there is something about being on the road as a solo act as opposed to being on the road with a band. And can you speak a little bit about how it was as the only Black person in this trio traveling the country doing work? What was that experience like?
Um, Sometimes it was really, really difficult because I see blues as being Black music, but blues has kind of like been just taken over by white folks, not just white players, but also white audiences and white venues. And so that was difficult. I remember one time in Maine, I forget where we were, somewhere Caribou, up northern Maine, and we walked in a restaurant to eat, and everything got hushed, and all these little children were like, Mama, Mama, look, look, there's somebody Black, and there were lots of times when I would be the Black person. We did a festival in South Africa, and I was the only Black person there. Not the festival lineup. There were no Blacks in the festival lineup except me, and none in the audience but me. So it was really, really difficult that way. Like I said, we didn't even set out to be a women's group, but as it happened, it was a Black, a Jew, and as Andrew calls herself, a hillbilly. So here we are, a Black, a Jew, and a hillbilly playing the blues. And we would go into clubs and people would say, "Where's the band?" I think we got more stares from being women who played. Most women, even the best blues players nowadays, except for Ruthie Foster and a few others, um, usually the woman is out front singing and not playing. So it was hard. And it was hard being alone when I knew that home was joyous. When you go on the road, you give up your weekends. You lose your friends because all your friends are together on the weekends, and I'm working on the weekends. And that's the hardest thing about being on the road. You lose your friends. You lose your social life. You have a really, really hard time sustaining a love relationship, it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
hard. And on all these, you hear about the wild things that go on the road. You're so tired. You go home, you go back to the hotel, and you manage to get in and close the door and roll into bed and get up the next day and travel 5, 6, 7 hours, get something to eat, go to sound check, play the gig, go back home to the hotel. And it's really, really hard.
Mm-hmm.
Um, with the three of us, we had gotten to the point where we had we had a manager who was deciding on the dates and all of this. We had a manager, we had a booking agent, we had a travel agent, we had a road manager, we had a person who was doing the merchandise, we had a CPA. Um, anyway, we were making good money, but we were still making what we started out at because we had to have all of this additional staff. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Um, your booking agent automatically gets 10%, your management gets 15%. And then, like for example, just to make it clear to your audience, let's say we have a $4,000 gig. Well, that sounds like good money. All right, trio, $4,000. All right, but we're playing in Michigan, and we got 10% to the booking agent, 15% to our manager. So now we're down to 3,000. And then we got 4 airfares, us and the road manager. Now we're down to 2,000. Now we got, and we have to pay his airfare. And now we got the insurance and taxes, and we pay the CPA. So I am lucky on a $4,000 job if I come home with $400.
Mm.
So you could start to estimate the amount you make from a gig at 10%, whatever the gig was. 10% is basically what I'd be bringing home. So then I did a lot of duo work with Roddy, doing what the State Department called edutainment, because like Angela Davis's book, Legends, what is it? Legendary Blues and Black Feminism.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, like she writes in her book, though I didn't need the book to verify this, is that the only true written history of working class Black women is in the Black blues lyrics, is in the Black women's blues lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would perform for the State Department. I would take this show because a lot of people think that Blacks in America just have a wonderful time. And in a lot of ways we do. But there's no oppression in the world that's the same as Black oppression in America. None anywhere has been like this kind of oppression. So, anyways, I performed for the State Department in Ghana and Togo, in Jamaica, in Eastern Europe, Montenegro, Serbia, quite a few places. And then with Roddy, I also did the same kind of act in Germany and France and a few other countries. So, and then I would dress up in the white tails, or either black tails and tie,
Mm-hmm.
as though I were of the 20s and of the 30s. No, I could not wear the gowns. That would be too much outside of my personality. But the tails, I could really get into that persona
Yes.
and truly become Ma Rainey of this century. By the way, just an aside, I was really pleased with the Ma Rainey, Viola Davis's portrayal.
Mm.
That's the Ma Rainey that I have in my mind's eye.
Okay.
Whereas Latifah doing Bessie, That was that wasn't my picture of Bessie in my mind's eye. So,
Yeah, Viola
yeah.
Davis did do an incredible job at that. That
Mhm.
was wonderful. Let's turn our lens on the blues and let's talk more about
Let
the.
me I just got one thing I need to say.
Okay.
So now I'm doing a lot more solo work, just me, nobody. And partially because thanks to the pandemic, I learned how to perform by myself in my living room. And you have a lot more freedom when you're by yourself. And I enjoy it. The music sounds better when somebody else is playing with me, but I enjoy the freedom to do my repartee and not feeling like I'm holding the other musicians captives. Yeah, go on.
You spoke about just the importance, especially in terms of the lyrics and their what they embodied with the lives, telling the lives of Black working class women as they perform this music. What are the other ways that for people who just aren't aware and can't seem to grasp the importance and the blessing and brilliance of blues music, its history, and what it can be for us today? How would you talk about just the importance of blues music?
Okay, well, first of all, the first recorded blues was in 1920, and it was by a woman, Mamie Smith. And the first song was called Crazy Blues. And the last verse says, I'm going to get myself a gun and I'm going to shoot myself a cop. Lord, I got them crazy blues. Sold like 80,000 copies in 1 month. That doesn't even happen in blues music today. So was it that Black people just wanted to hear Black voices, or was it because it was like rap of that day? I'm going to get a gun and I'm going to shoot a cop. So right there, it was written by a black man, but it was sung by a Black woman, and everybody bought this record because one way or the other it resonated with them. So you had a lot of lyrics that really told about what the condition of the day was. Somebody last weekend I was doing a panel on Black women in the blues. And this fellow was talking about moonshine, the guy who was leading the panel. And I said, oh, well, you're talking about Lucille Bogan's Sloppy Drunk. I'd rather be sloppy drunk than anything I know. You know, my good man has quit me and gone with somebody else, and now I'm drinking all alone and I'm feeling good by myself. Lord, I just pulled it out. Oh, wow. I love that moonshine liquor better than I love my gal. I use gal instead of pal. I use my moonshine liquor. So anyway, um, if anybody goes back and just listens to some of the blues from the 20s, they will hear the history that's in this music. But musically, these women, they did the octave slurs. That's an octave. And you look at where all of them do now. I call them curly cues, but they were the first ones to do the twirls. They were the first ones to growl. Hey, baby. They were the first ones to really think about phrasing. So if you do a song like Meet Me With Your Black Drawers On, you go, meet me with your black drawers on, 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 so that the phrasing was part of the story. And you kept people guessing as to what was going to come next. So you don't get bored. A lot of blues is AAB. You have two lines that repeat and a third line that kind of like finishes off the story. Most people know Stormy Monday. Call it Stormy Monday, but Tuesday's just as bad. You repeat it. Call it Stormy Monday, Tuesday's just as bad. Okay, tell me something else. Well, Wednesday's worse and Thursday's also sad. So that's the same form that goes all the way through the song. So in order to keep the song interesting, you have to do something different with it. So when I get down to eagle flies on Friday, Saturday I go out and play. And then I'm like, eagle flies on Friday, Saturday I go out to pray, Sunday I go to church. I fall down on my knees and pray. So that you try to change it up melodically and change up the phrasing and change up the punctuation just to keep the song really interesting, and we did that. We did that. Everybody does it now. And the great ones do it without thinking. But and then breath control and where to punctuate and where to breathe and how to breathe, and like singing with your head voice. All right, so you have somebody like Tina Turner. I am so in love with you. Whatever you want to do, it's all up here in the nose. So there are different things that these blues women gave us. And if you really want to hear somebody great, that's Bessie Smith. Vocalists are usually either storytellers or musicians. Billie Holiday is a musician. Gaye Adegbalola is a storyteller. I don't have those musical chops. Mm-hmm. Bessie Smith has both of them. Mm-hmm. Ella Fitzgerald has both of them. So you got some great ones. Did that answer your question? I'm not sure.
You did. You gave me more.
I get to talking and then I just,
No, I loved it. I love the examples. I love the influences. I love how you talked about blues women and what people should look for, because I think sometimes people will look at blues music and they don't have any sense of what they should be looking for or what they're listening to. Mm-hmm. So having some information about that is important, so people who have not enjoyed blues music may take a second look now or second listen to Bessie Smith and Ma Rainey, Alberta Hunter, and then, this is what I'm hearing. That's what Gaye was saying. So, yes.
Yeah. If you really want to hear some good writing, listen to Alberta Hunter. Alberta Hunter wrote the first song that Bessie Smith recorded. And Alberta Hunter was smart enough that she kept her rights. She gets her royalties. She got her royalties for that song.
Wow. Yeah. That's amazing. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I want to talk about something else, but I want to kind of turn around and look at your wall and the women who are there, and because those who don't have the benefit of seeing the video can't see that you're in a room and behind you are all these incredible pictures. Tell us about the pictures of women who are behind you.
Those are my girls.
Your girls. Tell us about your girls.
My girls. Well, these are just some influences. These are my 3 influences. That right there?
Yep.
That's Alberta Hunter. And there's a story, if you get to read her autobiography, she showed up at this photographer's house with a flannel shirt on, buttoned up at the neck. And the photographer went in the room and found a black dress and kind of draped it around her. It was a world famous photographer. It's a delightful story. Down here, of course, is Nina Simone. And I had to find the right picture because I didn't want her sad. I didn't want her mad, but I didn't want her dressed up in African stuff either. So I got one where I think she's looking at me. Yeah, and I found a label that says High Priestess of Soul. Yeah. This over here is Big Mama Thornton. And that's an actual photograph. Of course, she's in her cowboy hat. And she would be kind of hard pressed to hide her sexual being. So those are my 3 sheroes that are right here. And I have some other very special stuff up here on the wall, but I'll spare you all of that. Those are very personal. Yeah, I mean, they're family pictures. They're wonderful pictures, though. Yeah. And then I got other folks over here. I don't know if you can see this at all.
Yes.
A friend painted a picture of me, but here is Sippy Wallace. Come on, Sippy, can you Can you show yourself? There you go.
Nice.
So the little that's by Dane Tillman. He's a wonderful artist in Pennsylvania. And then I kind of have my girl. Can you see Frida?
I can.
Frida is everywhere. Frida is everywhere. Frida is over here on my music stand too. She's right here. There are two big pictures over there. I think that Frida Frida had so much pain in her life, and she used her pain and painted what she knew. And so while a lot of her art is quite primitive, it's just so pure. It's just so pure. And she painted her own pain, and she is just such an inspiration to me. I visited her home in Mexico City. I just I really admire her. Yeah, I've written a couple of songs for her, but I haven't recorded them. I haven't found the right thing. I haven't found the right groove for them. Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes songs take a long time to come to fruition.
And speaking of that, you have a new album that you're about to release?
Well, it's not an album. When you say an album or a CD, you're talking about a real physical thing, a hard copy you can hold in your hand. As it happens nowadays, if you buy a car in the last couple of years, there is no CD player in that car anymore. And for the most part, the music buying public doesn't buy CDs anymore.
True.
So every musician I know has a closet full of CDs because they're not selling anymore. Everybody is downloading the music they want or going to different streaming platforms. So I took this opportunity because VizTone is able to do singles. I don't have a CD's worth of good music. I have a CD's worth of music. God knows I have several CDs worth of music, but not good music, not music that I want to live on after me. But I had 3 songs that I loved and I wanted to share with people. And so one came out October 20th. It's called Tell Mamala. That's the pet name for the Vice President, Kamala Harris. In that her stepchildren and her nieces call her Mamala. And so it was just too easy a jump to make, because Etta James, one of her biggest hits is called Tell Mama. But it's about her talking to this guy who's been dumped by a woman. And she's saying, hey, come on over here, tell mama all about it. I'm going to help you. And so in this song, I had to decide what point of view I wanted to tell the story from. So I'm telling the story to a friend. And I'm saying to this friend who's crying about this, that, and the other, I'm saying, hey, you can't pay your bills, you can't buy your pills, you can't do this and the other. Why don't you just tell Mamala? In other words, tell Kamala Harris about it. Ain't got a cent to pay your rent. Got too many bills, you can't buy your pills. You want to work but can't find a good paying job. You spend the day and night just calling on God. Tell Mamala all about it. Tell Mamala just what you need. Tell Mamala what you're wanting. She'll make everything all right. Yeah, she'll make everything all right. And it says, you want a little sass? How about some fake pearls and chucks? Affordable sass. And so I try to talk about what an inspiration she is and how it's this Black woman, an Asian woman, who's a step away from the White House, who's wearing chucks and who's walking out on stage to Mary J. Blige. Oh my God, is that something? So I had to write for this lady. I had to try to deify her as best I could. Now, the next song that's coming out, and I know you've already heard it, but it's a tribute and a deification of John Lewis. Yeah, the boy from Troy, who's always making good trouble. And so there were three pieces that I wanted to send out into the world. And all three of them are, they're doing what they call a waterfall. In other words, they do one, they wait a month, they do another, and then they do the third.
And where can
But
folks find these
um,
singles?
wow, the easiest place to find it is just to go to my Facebook page,
Okay.
Gaye Adegbalola.
Okay.
Yeah, Gaye Adegbalola. And there you will find a link, but you can get it at Spotify, you can get it at Pandora, you can download it from YouTube, in a number of places. If you're on any kind of platform like
Okay.
that, please, please, please get it. Please, please, please tell people about it, because I believe in the message of the music. I'm taking up where my girls from the 20s left off. You know,
Yes.
it's the same message in the music.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
you know, about our Black history. Our Black history here is living. Our Black history as Black women is living right here. You know, and it just so happens I'm a lesbian. Um, that's very, very much a part of me. But when you asked me who I was, that wasn't even on my radar. You know, when we started out and I was defining myself, so to speak, but I am, that's who I am, but it's not the main part of my definition of me.
I have one question to ask you because you alluded to it before in terms of just what it's been like during this time of COVID as an independent musician and songwriter and all the things you do, Griot. Can you speak a little bit more about that experience and some of the things that have been both challenges and opportunities for you during these past year and a half or so?
Well, the first thing you need to know is that for professional musicians like myself in 2020, I saw it coming. I've been doing the front porch, half lit and talking schmack for 2.5 years now. But I told people in February of 2020 about the pandemic that was coming, about Corona that was coming. When it hit, I had no idea it would be here for so long. And I lost all my dates in 2020. So what I did, it was like, what am I going to do? Because I had some obligations. Well, the first thing I did was I sold off my button collection. I had a button that said Free Angela Davis, even. One that said ban apartheid from South Africa. My whole button collection, I put them in different groups: funny buttons, political buttons, feminist buttons.
How many
And
buttons did you have in your collection?
hundreds,
Wow.
hundreds. And I put them into categories and I auctioned them off. So, yeah, I kept the button that said closets are for clothes. Yeah.
Yes.
So, and then my next thing, for whatever reason, every couple of years I changed my license plates, and I kept all of those. So then I auctioned off my license plate. I had Black Angel. One of my big songs was called Sweet Black Angel. Black Angel, Live for Love. That was another one. Uppity 3, so on and so forth. So I auctioned off all my license plates. That was next. So then it was about, well, what do I do next? Well, I started to do some living room concerts, and that was okay. And people were going to the tip jar. But then at the end of the year, do you know that PayPal took taxes on all the tips? Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Um, and then I sold off. I probably got rid of 3/4 of my vinyl records. I got rid of hundreds of CDs. I got rid of all my cassettes. And don't laugh, because these were some good cassettes. I mean, we're
Wow.
talking collector's items cassettes and all kinds of Saffire memorabilia. That was what my 2020 was about. And a few concerts, but it was work.
Mm-hmm.
But as it happened, at the end of the year, last year, I moved in with Queen Lovelace, my girl, and I needed to get rid of stuff anyway because it's a smaller space, and yeah, and that's where one of my guitars went too. I got rid of one of the guitars too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you
Mm-hmm.
can't have any of these though. These are my babies. They're gonna stay with me forever. I'll probably be buried with them. These four. Um, and that's what happened. So this year, just as soon as work was starting to come back, I had a major date August 1st in Michigan, and then everything else was canceled.
Mm.
However, in November, I go to Denmark for 4 gigs and then come back home. And then the day before Thanksgiving, I'm doing a women's blues festival in Iowa at a casino.
Lovely.
And then
Woo.
I have no work in December.
All right now.
But it's good. It's all good, baby. It's all good. I'm working on a new song for Fannie Lou.
Oh my goodness. How
Hmm.
wonderful.
Yeah, it's like I don't sit down.
Mm,
I have
mm,
to stand up and fight.
mm, mm,
My fight is standing up. I haven't fleshed it out yet,
mm-hmm,
but that's my shero. That's my inspiration for my activism is Fannie Lou.
mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Wonderful. Well, if I
Yeah.
had a wall of sheroes behind me, your picture would be there. So
Oh,
I just want you to know how
oh,
much we love you, how much we
oh,
appreciate your musicianship,
oh,
your role as our griot, our
oh.
shero, and all the wonderful ways you show up in the
Oh.
world.
Well, y'all come on up here to Fredericksburg. Come on and
Can't
visit.
wait. Can't wait.
All right. Well, thank you.
And thank you for being part of our Black Lesbian Herstory.
Yes, if you name your fears, you will tame your fears. Try it, don't deny it. It's gonna be alright, gonna be alright. Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is true. Gaye has got some big ovaries, baby. And I mean big. So you need to listen to her music if you're not familiar with all the work she's put out and just the incredible way she continues to preserve blues music. Just phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal. I am fangirling. Yes, 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 I am, because we love some Gaye Adegbalola around here and just value the way in which she moves in the world. Thank you, Gaye, for such a wonderful conversation. I put information in the show notes about where you can purchase her singles, as well as get some more information about her and the work she's done. So please make sure to take advantage of that information and support this artist. Support all the artists we're going to be talking to and we have talked with on the podcast. It's so important that we make sure the woman we love whose work feeds us survives beyond us. And that can only happen when you support their work. So if you hear it here, buy it there on their website, on their social networking platforms. Let them know that you love it. Just like I want you to let me know that you love the podcast by leaving a rating, some comments, feedback, wherever you listen to this show. As always, we appreciate your listenership. And in the meantime, until we see each other again, have a sweet one.